Hi, this is part two of why the rent is so high in Seattle. Now, what I talked about in my last video was how they tried to pass a bill to help protect renters from getting shafted by the developers. It says here. Take the Department of Planning and Development's rental registration and inspection ordinance, or the RRIO, which went into effect in fall of 2014. Every landlord within the city must register their property and submit to basic safety and maintenance inspections. Earlier that summer, professors from the University of Washington and Harvard University wrote DPD asking that the department also require landlords to include average rents for their units in the registration in exchange for the data which they would use only to study housing policies nationwide. The professors offered to provide the city with a Seattle-specific report, gratis, because it represents a comprehensive survey of all rental properties it's a comprehensive survey of all of the rental owners in the city. They wrote the RRIO would offer gold standard data about housing affordability, rental dynamics, and policy initiatives. That sounds really good when you talk that out. Like I just talked it out. That sounds real good, but talk is cheap, and people's lives are at stake here. People's livelihoods are at stake here. Where I live at is in Minneapolis. I know Minneapolis, that's a far cry from where Seattle is at. I did something really stupid and I ended up moving to Minneapolis back in '96, and I got stuck here. But I've always been trying to find a way to get back to Seattle. Now, I want to be mayor of Seattle, to help Seattle. Not just as a way to get back to Seattle, but to help Seattle become the beautiful city I remember it. Now, when you've got a lot of people that are doing all these statistics and things, that's great. You can talk till you're blue in the face, but you're not getting nothing done. Nothing at all. You're not getting a freaking thing finished. I plan on changing that. There will be a new sheriff in town, and his name is going to be Wyatt Earp. Of course, my name's not Wyatt Earp. It says here, the RRIO could offer gold standard data about housing affordability and rental dynamics and policy initiatives. You're not going to have affordable rental until the ones building the apartments and the ones managing the apartments, everything is a real estate deal now. You got to go through a realtor, or you got to go through a property broker now. And they set these freaking standards so freaking high that nobody can afford to even go through there unless you're making 100 to 200 grand a year. What kind of right is that? When I was growing up, and I lived back in the 80s and early 90s, especially when I lived in Seattle, I would just go to the apartment building and I would talk to the manager and I'd say, hey, you got an apartment for sale, or you got an apartment for rent? Yes, I do. Okay, this is me. I want to rent the apartment. And we would sit there, me and him, and we would talk. And he'd get a feel for me, and I'd get a feel for him. And he would say, okay, I'm going to give you a shot. Sign on a dotted line. This is what you got to pay. And it worked into a month-to-month to a 6-month lease to a year lease. That's how I'm used to doing stuff. I'm not used to going through some great big huge broker that's going to charge $30 or $40 for a rental application when they know you're not going to get the apartment anyway. They may even have the apartment already rented out, but they're still going to charge the 100 different people that wants that apartment. They're going to charge them 25, 35, 45, whatever the price will be for the background check. And I get it. You don't want serial killers in your apartment. I don't like serial killers. Anybody that would go around killing serial, it's got some serious issues up there. You know what I mean? That was a joke, by the way. Being your mayor, I do have a sense of humor. The city, which, as I am reading this to you, is in the midst of finalizing mayor, well, this was Ed Murray's housing affordability and livability agenda, the findings of which are due in May. So like I said in the last video, this is a little older. You got a brand new mayor. She's apparently not Ed Murray. See here, when I had the opportunity to deploy an unprecedented mechanism for gathering real data on its own rental market. Instead, it declined. Okay, according to Ed Murray's housing affordability and livability agenda, the findings of which are due in May, had the opportunity to deploy an unprecedented mechanism for gathering real data on its own rental market. Instead, it declined to tweak the registration requirements when I asked DPD spokesperson Brian Stevens, and he's probably not there. I'll clarify these things. If you have any issues with what I'm reading to you, I'll clarify these in another video, and I'll put a post on my YouTube video to let you know what's been updated and what hasn't as I put the video up. So it says here, the DPD spokesperson Brian Stevens, why he explained that the change was out of scope would generate stakeholder opposition, which means that the people that are raking in the dough off of you guys don't want somebody getting in their pockets and finding out how much money they actually have. They don't mind you scoping into what they're doing. They don't want you scoping into how much they're making. Would be difficult to implement and would generate data of questionable quality. Remember, we're talking about asking landlords to do some basic math here. We're asking the landlords to give us information on how much they're making each month. Now, my personal opinion is that a lot of places are charging a lot of rent for a couple of different reasons. One, you charge too much rent, you'll keep undesirables out of your building. People that could possibly be drunks or drug addicts. People that could possibly be on low income, and people equate low income and welfare with crime, which, although there is some people that are getting welfare that are scamming the system, and people getting SSI and Social Security that are scamming the system, 90% of everybody that gets that is above and beyond their shipshape. They're good citizens. They're just trying to get by. They're trying to have a home. Now, some people are living in Seattle. Some people are living in Seattle, and they want to move to another city, but because of their high rent and the inability to get low-income housing, they don't have a way to save up any money. Like right now, I live on $755 a month. My apartment here in Minneapolis, it's a studio apartment. It is 384 square feet. That includes a very tiny dinky kitchen. That includes a little living area here, a bathroom back over there. It includes my little computer area right here. but I pay $435 for that apartment. Every year the rent goes up $5. For me, it is no longer affordable because the rent is more than half of what I make each month. Now, I don't like being on disability. I had some disabilities from when I was much younger. It keeps me from being able to it keeps me from working a full-time job. If I could find something that I could do that would pay the bills and it would be a steady gig, I would much rather have that than to be on SSI. Now, I don't want to become mayor of Seattle just to get off of SSI, although that will be a good benefit, which means that it frees up $755 a month for somebody else that needs that money. I want to become mayor because I believe in you, Seattle. I believe that you deserve much better than what you're getting. Now, back to this. The stakeholders, it's the stakeholder opposition part that's most telling. Take a guess where it came from. Sean Martin, Director of External Affairs for the Rental Housing Association in Washington. Now, that person may not even be the director of the housing anymore for the state of Washington. But when he was, it says here, gathering information, says gathering those numbers would have been too cumbersome for landlords, which means that instead of forcing the landlords to do their job, the housing affairs director said, well, yeah, it's too difficult. Oh, what the heck? We're not going to make them do that. Now, this is just another thing for our members to have to track and submit. So we just weren't that interested in going there. Instead of forcing the city to do what they're supposed to do, and instead of forcing the landlords to do their jobs, the city let everybody go on vacation. Now, I am sick and tired of everybody being on vacation. This isn't La La Disneyland anymore. This is Seattle. This is a city full of people. People that work, people that are on low income, people that are homeless. And that's another thing I'm going to work on as well. Dealing with the homeless issue. Dealing with the housing issue. I'm also dealing with the homeless. Now, I put up a video that explains exactly how I would take care of the homeless problem. I'm not just going to put a Band-Aid over it. I'm just not going to smooth it out so that way when people look, it doesn't look quite so bumpy. I'm going to fix the goddamn road. Pardon my French. I'm going to fill the potholes where they needed to be fixed. And instead of actually fixing the potholes, I'm going to repave the roads with something that will actually work and not break up too often and too quickly. Because we seem to be a country of people that need job security. You fix the roads only enough to make sure that you still have a job. Seattle, the homeless. You want the homeless to be taken care of only so much as they're still going to be homeless. You got the homeless depending on the city of Seattle, and you got the homeless depending on the homeless shelters. You got the homeless depending on the people giving out the free food and all of that stuff. Pretty soon it's going to be nipped. I'm going to nip it right in the bud. I'm going to be like Barney Fife, and I'm just going to nip it. Nip it, nip it, nip it. Now, here it says, while there may not be any conceivable way to stop the rise of rents in a market as out of control as Seattle's, one city council member is making attempts to soften the effect. This city council member fought for low and moderate income renters virtually since being elected in '97, and who incidentally will not seek re-election this fall, proposed an ordinance this spring that would penalize shady landlords, which means that if you're a landlord and you're screwing over the tenant, you're gonna get nipped in the bud. Since 1990, the city's tenant relocation assistance ordinance has mandated that building owners who plan to demolish or significantly rehab an existing property pay $3,255 in relocation costs to displaced tenants who make less than 50% of the city's median income. Now, that in a way is messed up, because now how much does the city make? You got Microsoft, you got Amazon, and you got Facebook there. There's people making 150 to 200 grand a year, 60, 70, 80, 90,000 a year, and you got tenants that are low income that are losing their apartments, and they make less than 50% of the city's median. Of course they're going to make less. We make about between $8,000 and $10,000 a year. That's way less than 50% of the median area income, which means when they say median area income, you take the income of the area you're in, you figure out what the average income is per year, and then you cut that down by half. That's like George Lucas in Skywalker Ranch. He wanted to build, I forget what it was he wanted to build, but anyway, he wanted it to be for low-income people. And they said, the area said no. Well, George Lucas said that he wanted to build low-income housing. Did he want to build low-income housing for people like us that are making way less than minimum wage? No. He wanted to make affordable housing for those that don't need affordable housing. Like, affordable housing for George Lucas would be an apartment that's like $10,000 a month, because that's the area median income in that area. That's how much it would be if you went by 30% or 50% or whatever it was. Now, getting back to this, I'm getting a little off topic here, and I shouldn't do that. Okay, let's see here. It says, so in 1990, in relocation costs to displaced tenants who make less than 50% of the city's median income. The city foots half of the bill. Yet, Lasada's office was found, at least anecdotally, that many landlords circumvent the process by raising rents so high that low-income tenants have no choice but to move out. That's how they're fucking everybody over. You fuckheads. You're raising the rent so fucking high that the tenants have absolutely no choice but to move out. That's how you're getting around that 50% and 30% shit. Now, I'm really pissed off right now. I could bite a fucking bullet and blow my fucking head off. That's how angry I am. Now, I'm using foul language right now to prove a point. I don't normally talk foul language, but whenever I start getting pissed off and find out that there's people out there fucking over the citizens of the city that I love, that I can't move back to because you guys have raised the fucking rent so fucking high, that really pisses me off. Now, when I get into Seattle, shit's gonna change. Things are gonna get fucked over for the better. The people that are making the rent so freaking high are gonna get fucked over. Now, I'm either gonna get it fixed or somebody's gonna hire somebody to fucking shoot me and kill me. But either way, some shit's gonna get finished. Citizens are not gonna be able to be pushed around by the landlords anymore. Citizens that can afford to pay $4,000 and $5,000 a month, more power to you. Have at it. People that are working on minimum wage, that are working on low-income housing, SSI and Social Security, and people that are on VA benefits, you guys had better do something to help them. Because if you don't, your world's about to get fucked up. And I mean that. I make a promise, I keep it. I ain't no politician, and I ain't one of them guys that needs money. Yes, I make $755 a month, but I figured out how to live on that. I can squeeze blood out of a turnip. I'm telling you, when I go to the store, I can take $50 and I can find out how to get $100 worth of groceries out of that shit. So I don't care who's trying to pay me off. I don't take a bribe from nobody. Seattle is too important. The citizens are too important for me to take a bribe. Now, you want nice, you want slick, you want somebody that looks good, don't vote for me in the coming election. You want to get some shit done, and you need somebody to be in your corner, I'm your guy. Yes, I've got a whole history of crap in my background that they'll probably drudge up, and they'll probably bring it out, and they'll probably come out and say it. Anything they come out and say that's true, I'll tell you, and I'll let the chips fall where they may. Now, I've had some issues in the past with some stuff I did when I was much younger. I've been in jail a few times, and I've done a few things, but I'm human. But I make you promise to this, I've never screwed over Seattle, and I ain't planning on it. I do plan on screwing over the landlords, and I do plan on screwing over the property owners and the developers that are screwing over the city. I'll grant you that. You want to make some housing that people want to pay $3,000 and $4,000 for? Sell them to the Microsoft people, sell them to the Amazon people, sell them to the Facebook people. Don't force that crap down somebody's throat just because they need a place to stay. I was looking at getting a room to rent up in Seattle until I could get an apartment. Most of the rooms, $600 a week. No, I take that, I'm sorry, not $600 a week. I found some rooms with a shared kitchen and a shared bath, a rinky-dink living room, a small room, $400 a week. I've seen some bedrooms that are being rented out in the house for $1,200. Why? Because they know they can get it. Or at least right now, they think they can get it. I've got until 2020 to come up with some ideas, write stuff down, and figure out exactly what I'm going to do. I've been calling the city council. I've been talking to some developers. I've been dealing with a whole ton of people. Now, I'm not just going to waltz in and be like a Donald Trump and make you a whole ton of promises and have nothing to show for it. When you ask me how I plan on fixing the homeless problem, I'll tell you. I got the stuff written down, and I made phone calls, and I've got the ball rolling, and I'm not even mayor yet. As far as the housing rent cap, I've got my hand in the fire on that too. I've got ideas that I'm going to do, and I just need some people with the balls to help me get it finished. And this is going to take all of you, Seattle. It's going to take every single person that lives in Seattle that cares about Seattle. Now, there's some people that live in Seattle, all it is to them is a paycheck. That's all it is. It's just a job. They don't give a crap about Seattle. They're just a transplant that came to Seattle, and they could give a shit less about Seattle. I love Seattle. I want to die in Seattle. I would die to save Seattle. And Seattle has got a virus. They've got a growth, a tumor inside them. Seattle, you have a tumor inside you, and it's not too big that it can't be fixed before it starts infecting everything else. You think the housing problem is bad now? Wait till the people get so greedy that they make the rent so freaking high. They make the rent so high that they won't have nobody to be able to afford to live there. Seattle is going to implode on itself. Seattle is going to make the rent so high, the developers are going to make the rent so high that it will be virtually impossible for anybody to live there, and Seattle will die. It'll become a ghost town. That's my prediction. I want to stop that before that happens. Who's with me, Seattle? You with me? If you are, anybody that sees this video and sees the part one of this video, anybody that sees this video that wants to help Seattle, please put your name down at the bottom in the comments. Write that you will plan on doing this. If you want my personal email address so you can get a hold of me in person, that's fine. I'll give it to you. Just message me privately, and I will give you the information. Now, I don't want a lot of people that are just dickheads calling me or writing me. I want people that are very serious. People that live in Seattle that believe in what I'm trying to do and that believe that Seattle is worth it. You deserve much better, Seattle. Seattle is too gorgeous of a city to be treated like a whore. And that's what the developers and the landlords, that's what they're doing. They're treating you guys like a whore. Like a two-bit, no good, trashy whore. And Seattle, you're much better than that. I'm putting the mayors and I'm putting the city council's feet to the fire. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. You have till 2020 to get some shit done. If you don't get it started, I guarantee you that I'm going to put my name in the hat and I'm going to run for mayor. Now, they've got things that you got to have to be mayor. Yeah, they've got that. But hey, look at Abraham Lincoln. He became president. And he wasn't very finely educated in the biggest colleges. He didn't have public service and behind him and all that stuff. Not really, not before he became president. But there's a lot of people that have become a mayor of a certain, so like Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura, he became a mayor of a city before he became the governor of Minnesota. If Jesse Ventura can do it, we can do it, Seattle. We can do it. This isn't just me. This is a we. We, the people of Seattle, can do much better for ourselves. Repeat after me. We, the people of Seattle, can do much better for ourselves. We want better for ourselves than what we have now. We demand better. I'm going to leave you on that note because this video is getting kind of long. I will do a part 3 expounding more on this video, but if you believe in me and you believe in what I'm doing, post it down there. If you're just a butthead and want to leave all kinds of malicious comments, I'll give you an option to fix it. If you don't fix it, I will block you and make sure you can't be seen on my YouTube channel. I only want people that are positive, that are in Seattle, that can help the process. Because just like Hillary became a congressperson in New York without being a resident of New York, I too would like to be a mayor of Seattle, and I would love to be able to move back to Seattle. I'm 51, be 52 in June, and I plan on living out the rest of my days there as soon as I can figure out how to get back to Seattle. So I plan on doing this. So who's with me, Seattle?